Port Wineme, Maine. Imagine a quaint coastal town where life moves slowly amidst salty air, crashing waves, and charming cottages. Laughter echoes from the docks while children build sandcastles on the beach. Here, neighbors know each other, and doors remain unlocked. It's truly a paradise. The heart of Port Wineme is its bustling harbor, where fishermen, faces weathered by the sea, bring in the day's catch. Tourists stroll along the pier, lured by the scent of fresh lobster, while seagulls soar overhead, their cries a familiar melody. The rhythm of life here is steady, predictable, but beneath this idyllic surface, darkness lurks. A storm is brewing, one that will shatter the peace and leave an indelible mark on Port Wineme's soul. The murders are about to begin, and nothing in this tranquil town will ever be the same again. Welcome back to Port Wineme, Maine, a picturesque harbor where small fishing boats bob gently on calm waters under a warmly glowing sunset. This quaint coastal town is enveloped by salty air, crashing waves, and charming cottages. Life here moves at a leisurely pace. Laughter echoes from the docks, children create sandcastles on the beach, and residents live in a close-knit community where everyone knows each other and doors stay unlocked. It's a slice of paradise. The heart of Port Wineme is its bustling harbor. Weathered fishermen bring in the day's catch, while tourists are drawn to the smell of fresh lobster. Above, seagulls glide, their cries a familiar tune. Life here follows a steady, predictable rhythm. July 4th, 1993, Port Wineme was alive with celebration. Fireworks lit up the night sky, their reflections dancing on the water, and the air crackled with excitement. However, amidst the festivities, a sense of unease began to creep in. Sarah Miller, a young woman known for her warm smile at the local bakery, vanished without a trace. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the community, replacing joy with fear. The festive mood evaporated into a chilling dread. The police launched an exhaustive investigation, combing beaches, searching woods, and questioning residents. But Sarah was gone. Days turned into weeks, and the hope of finding her alive dwindled. Port Wineme held its breath, united in grief and growing fear. Weeks later, a fisherman made a gruesome discovery. Sarah's body was found washed ashore, her once vibrant eyes now vacant. The news spread through Port Wineme like wildfire, shaking the town to its core. The peace was shattered. The medical examiner's report confirmed their worst fears. Sarah had been murdered, the details too horrific to repeat. The once peaceful harbor now seemed ominous, the gentle waves now sinister. The townspeople were left reeling, struggling to comprehend the brutality that had invaded their sanctuary. Fear gripped Port Wineme, with parents keeping their children close and the elderly barricading themselves indoors. The fabric of their community, once woven with trust and familiarity, was unraveling. The police were baffled. There were no witnesses, no leads, no apparent motive. The investigation stalled. Frustration and fear mounted. Rumors began to swirl. Was it a stranger passing through? Was the killer one of their own? The townspeople, starved for answers, turned on each other. Suspicions arose. Old grudges resurfaced. The once tight-knit community was now fractured, divided by fear and uncertainty. The idyllic facade of Port Wineme had crumbled, revealing the darker currents that flowed beneath. The murder of Sarah Miller had exposed a vulnerability they never knew existed. It had awakened a primal fear, a chilling realization that even in paradise, evil could find a foothold. The question that haunted them all was, if it could happen to Sarah, could it happen again? 6 months passed. The initial shock had subsided, replaced by a dull ache of grief and a lingering fear. Life in Port Wineme went on, but the shadow of Sarah's murder loomed large. Then, it happened again. The victim was Tom Anderson, a local fisherman known for his quick wit and even quicker temper. His body was found in his fishing boat, a single gunshot wound to the head. The news spread like a virus, reigniting the terror that had begun to fade. The similarities to Sarah's murder were impossible to ignore. Both victims were well known and liked within the community. Both murders were brutal and seemingly random. The town was in a state of panic. The killer was still out there, hiding in their midst. The second murder confirmed what they had feared the most. They were dealing with a serial killer. The investigation intensified. The FBI was called in. But the killer remained elusive, a phantom preying on their fear. The once vibrant harbor became a ghost town. Tourists stayed away, fearing for their safety. The fishing industry, the lifeblood of Port Wineme, came to a standstill. The town was paralyzed by fear, held hostage by an unseen enemy. The murders had transformed Port Wineme. The sense of community, once their greatest strength, had become their greatest weakness. They were trapped in a nightmare, desperate for a way out. They needed someone to help them make sense of the chaos, someone to hunt the darkness that had descended upon their town. As the investigation dragged on, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source, a criminal profiler. Special Agent Rachel Riley arrived in Port Wineme, her sharp eyes and even sharper mind ready to dissect the case. Agent Riley was different from the other investigators. She wasn't interested in the obvious clues. She was interested in the killer's mind. She studied the crime scenes, the victim profiles, the town's social dynamics. She was looking for a pattern, a signature that would lead her to the monster hiding in plain sight. Her arrival brought a renewed sense of hope to Port Wineme. Could this outsider, this woman who understood the twisted minds of killers, be the key to ending their nightmare? The town held its breath, clinging to the possibility of justice, of closure, of peace restored. Agent Riley worked tirelessly, immersing herself in the details of the case. She interviewed the victims' families, seeking any shred of information that might provide insight into the killer's motive. She walked the streets of Port Wineme, absorbing the atmosphere, trying to see the town through the killer's eyes. Finally, she presented her profile. The killer, she believed, was a male, living in Port Wineme, likely someone overlooked, someone with a deep-seated resentment towards the community. He chose victims who represented the idyllic life he felt denied. The profile was chillingly accurate. It sent a collective shiver down the spines of the townspeople. The killer wasn't some shadowy figure from the outside. He was one of them, hiding in plain sight, blending in with their grief and fear. Armed with Agent Riley's profile, the police focused their investigation on individuals who fit the description. They re-interviewed witnesses, scrutinized alibis, and followed up on every lead, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Then came the break they had been waiting for. A witness came forward claiming to have seen a suspicious vehicle near Tom Anderson's boat on the night of his murder. The vehicle was traced back to a local mechanic, a quiet, unassuming man named David Harris. David Harris fit Agent Riley's profile perfectly. He was a loner, ostracized by the community for his eccentric behavior. He harbored a deep resentment towards those he perceived as having wronged him. He was their prime suspect. The police obtained a search warrant for David Harris's property. Inside his workshop, they found a treasure trove of incriminating evidence: the murder weapon, Sarah Miller's missing necklace, and newspaper clippings about the murders, all meticulously organized. David Harris was arrested and charged with the murders of Sarah Miller and Tom Anderson. The trial was a media spectacle, drawing national attention. The prosecution presented a compelling case built on forensic evidence, eyewitness testimony, and Agent Riley's expert analysis. The jury deliberated for 3 days before returning with a verdict: guilty on all counts. David Harris was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Justice had been served. The conviction of David Harris brought a sense of closure to Port Wineme. The cloud of fear that had hung over the town for so long finally began to lift. Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. The harbor bustled once more. Children played freely on the beach. The scars of the Seaside Slaying remained, a reminder of the darkness that had visited their shores. But the people of Port Wineme emerged from the ordeal stronger, their bonds tested, but not broken. They had faced their fears, confronted evil, and ultimately found justice for Sarah and Tom. The healing had begun,